Alright, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It's your boy Buddy Yoda back at it again with another Saints video. And today, New Orleans Saints training camp has officially begun. We're going to be breaking down some position battles that you need to watch out for, as well as any news covering the New Orleans Saints. So let's get right into it. Alright, first up, another blow to the wide receiver room. Deonte Harris could be suspended for 2 games. Now, this is another big hit to our wide receiver room because if he does get suspended, that leaves us with basically Traquan Smith and Marquez Callaway. We were already very lean once Michael Thomas went down, and now we are even leaner. So we need to be look for the Saints to add either a free agent or trade for a wide receiver. Some potential targets they could go for are, they could get Golden Tate off for the Giants. He'd be a pretty good wide receiver in our system, I believe. You could also maybe see a trade for somebody like Brandon Cooks from the Texans, try to get him back in here. He already is familiar with Sean Payton's system, so he wouldn't be too big of a reach and have trouble getting back in his system. You could also look at Dez Bryant, who did sign for the Saints back in 2018 for about a week or two, but tore his Achilles and basically became a non-factor. All of these guys are basically going to be one-year deals pretty much. You could also look for Josh Gordon if he gets officially reinstated back into the league, as you really need some help on that wide receiver room. In other news, the Saints have signed cornerback Brian Poole. I know I'm a little late to this news, but he's mainly a slot corner who's played very good. The league doesn't value him that much compared to what he actually brings to the table, but the problem is you still don't have a good outside corner opposite Marshon Lattimore. You have Paulson Adebo, who I think can develop into a very good cornerback, but he's a rookie, and he's rookie cornerbacks, unless you're Marshon Lattimore, don't tend to be impactful right away. So currently in your secondary, you've got Marshon Lattimore, who's most likely going to be suspended some games for the gun violence incident that happened up in Cleveland, or in Ohio. I don't remember if it was Cleveland exactly. You could either have Paulson Adebo or Patrick Robinson as your cornerback 2. And in the slot, you most likely have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who you could, since you did sign Brian Poole, you could transition him into more of like a hybrid box safety somewhat. Basically, if you're playing nickel or dime, he would be basically almost replaced like, he'd be the in-betweener between a linebacker and a safety position, and basically just play all around the field. But Brian Poole, I really do like the signing. I think it gives us very good depth in the secondary and allows us to run some more of our coverages in a more efficient manner. But I still expect them to maybe try to pick up a guy through free agency or trade. Now, the big target that needs to be looked out for is Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard has officially requested a trade from the Miami Dolphins. If we could somehow get Xavier Howard, I believe that would be an amazing pickup. Going rate for him right now, I would say, if I had to put a package together, let's see, what would I say? Definitely going to involve a first round pick, so definitely give up one of our first round picks for him, and which I'm not mad at all. Unless you're thinking back to 2017, the Saints have not done very well recently with their first round picks. In 2018, they traded their 2 first round picks, the one in the 18 draft and the 19 draft, to get Marcus Davenport, who's been basically almost completely non-factor, and I'd say this is his last year to really prove and say, yeah, you're worth what we put into you. And in 2020, grabbed Cesar Ruiz, who I do think can develop into a very good right guard, but at the time you had more bigger needs. You were still trying to win a Super Bowl very quickly, and a guard is not what you needed right then to win it. And this past year they got Peyton Turner, who could develop into a good guy, but I still see him as more of a developmental prospect who I think was taken too high. I had a 2nd and 3rd round grade on him, actually. So I would not be mad at sending a first round pick to Miami. Now, then you get into, okay, what else you're going to require. They either probably want another high draft pick or a good player in return. Now, looking at Miami, they do not have a very good offensive line. None whatsoever. So a potential package, I know Saints fans, we always want to luck them in. We could actually, if they do need guard help, you could try to put together an Andrus Peat with like a first-round pick and then a third-round pick. Now, I know Saints fans, we don't really like Andrus Peat that much, but he's been a serviceable guard. Is he worth the contract he's on? No, absolutely not. But has he been serviceable? Yes, he's been okay. We've asked him to do, he's usually done it. He's just not worth we're paying him like top 20 offensive guard money when he's not even worth probably top 32. He's probably around 40th or 35th best guard in the league, I'd say. So a potential package you could have is the 2022 first round pick, Andrus Peat, and then either a third, you probably get another comp pick for like losing some guys. So you probably could put together first Andrus Peat and a third round pick to try and get Xavier Howard. Now, would I love to see this trade? Oh, absolutely. I think if you could get Xavier Howard, you would have the best cornerback duo in the league with Marshon Lattimore and Xavier Howard. Now, Xavier Howard has requested a pay raise, so the Saints, that would put another strain on their cap, and Marshon Lattimore is coming up on an extension. Now, the question is, do we extend him? He's probably been the best cornerback we've had in recent memory in the New Orleans Saints. But what you could do, you could actually maybe make a pick swap. You could trade Marshon Lattimore and a first-round pick to Miami for Xavier Howard. Now, I really like Marshon Lattimore, so I wouldn't like this deal personally, but I believe you would give up very little, like in terms of Marshon Lattimore's coming up on an extension. It's probably going to be a lot more than what it would be to give actually Xavier Howard a pay raise and restructure his contract. And then you'd also be able to still maybe add a veteran wide receiver, cornerback this year. But I still think if they were going to trade for Xavier Howard, they need to keep Marshon Lattimore here. But if they don't decide to go through the trade route, there's still some decent free agents out there. You still have Richard Sherman, but he's going through his own mental struggles. I wish him the best of luck to get his mindset right. This ain't even about football anymore. He's going through something desperately, and I think he needs a lot of help. So you could have potentially, if Richard Sherman gets better, you could potentially get him. You could also look at a guy who I like in Dre Kirkpatrick, be a nice veteran presence in the locker room. He could teach some things to Paulson Adebo, and Marshon Lattimore could help Paulson Adebo help develop. So I think if you are going to look at some free agents, you're probably looking at either Dre Kirkpatrick, Richard Sherman, and I think that's pretty much it. And at this time in free agency, you're usually not going to get starting caliber players at all. You're mainly looking for guys who can like help boost your locker room some. And that brings us to the last thing. We still do need another linebacker aside Demario Davis. I'm repping his jersey today. I believe Pete Werner was a very good pickup from the Saints. But for immediate impact, I still think we need a guy. And you could look at a guy who I like is Quan Alexander. You could still maybe get him back, but he's having his own, like, you could probably sign him to, he's worth more than a veteran minimum deal, but the injuries definitely hamper. He's got a bunch of talent in the world, but he does not stay on the field. You'll probably maybe get 12 games out of him, max, I'd say. And that's not good, like, considering we moved to the 17-game season. So you could bring him back on, I'd say, a 1-year, $3 to $5 million deal, depending on how you want to structure it, basically. Maybe you give him more guaranteed money in a $3 million deal, but those are pretty much always guaranteed anyways. You could maybe add some incentives in there, like, hey, play at least this amount of games for us, and that'll boost your number up some. But, yeah, but still, like, I still think the main thing for New Orleans Saints is you need a wide receiver desperately again and another cornerback. For wide receiver, Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton in their press conference yesterday gave some good insight, gave some insight into the Michael Thomas situation. Sean Payton saying, I wish he would have gotten he should have basically saying, I wish he would have gotten the surgery sooner if he knew he was going to end up needing it, because now you most likely don't get him back. So he's been put on PUP, player unable to perform list. So most likely if he stays on the list going into the season, you won't get him back. He'll miss the first 6. He has to miss the first 6 weeks, and then he can come back week 7, which is the matchup against the Seahawks. Now, that actually isn't the worst thing, because that's actually the timetable I have for him coming back is week 7. You play the first. You have 5 games. You play games in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and week 5, and you have your bye week in week 6. He can come off that PUP list if he's fully healthy during that week 6 bye week, and you can get him back in the system, get him up to speed for everything. Now, again, you are in very bad position for your wide receivers. You pretty much only have Tre'Quan Smith and Marcus Callaway, and as Deontay Harris could be potentially suspended. So now you got to find some of your free, like maybe you move Juwan Johnson over. Maybe you got a little Jordan Humphrey coming in, basically. And I don't know how much this plays into the position battle at QB, because I believe Jameis was going to definitely win this job before it, but that was with our entire wide receiver core healthy. Looking at it now, I still think Jameis could win, because you're going to have to move Taysom Hill basically to play more skill position roles, I think. You're basically going to have to – Taysom is way too valuable now for being able to play basically any position. You're going to, I think, end up putting him either at tight end and run a bunch of tight end sets like 12 personnel or 13 personnel, and basically just try to get him involved as much as possible. As pretty much you don't have anything outside Marquez Callaway and Tre'Quan Smith. Now, Marquez Callaway is a beast, and I think Tre'Quan can really shine if he's given the opportunity with Jameis's arm. Because even though Taysom Hill supposedly has an arm, he doesn't have any zip on the ball. I'm reminded of like all of his throws. It was the one I think against the Atlanta Falcons where he threw that up to Emmanuel Sanders, and it looked like a punt. Basically, Emmanuel Sanders could have basically fair caught it. And the only reason he did catch it is because the cornerback overran his position, basically. So I would say Jameis is probably still your starting quarterback. You still have pretty good offensive line play. Pretty much your Ryan Ramczyk just inked that huge extension. Teron Armstead, probably best tackle duo in the league. You could make an argument for Eric McCoy being the best upcoming center in the league. Cesar Ruiz, I expect to really take a step forward in this year. Usually you see development for offensive line guys within their first to third year. That's when you really know if you got something there, basically. And Andrews Pete's Andrews Pete. So you know what you're going to get from Andrews Pete. It may not be what the Saints like, but it's pretty much what you're probably going to get. So defense, you still keep majority of your starters. You got your safeties, Malcolm Jenkins and Marcus Williams, still like that duo. But you're going to really rely on like Cam Jordan and maybe your other like pass rusher to give you some pressure, as we lost David Onyemata, so now you probably convert God, I can't remember his name. You saw it was the Chiefs defensive tackle that you signed. Probably put him there and maybe transition Peyton Turner into a more flex, because he does have great flexibility, into a D-tackle type role to give basically Carl Granderson and Marcus Davenport that other edge rush position. So I think that's all I got for right now. So till next time, who dat?